Hi, I'm Bob Peters, and I'm here at Leesburg International Airport. I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the Liberty Foundation and those beautiful planes you have there. What is the foundation? What is the purpose of the foundation? It's not just airplanes, is it?
No, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization based out of Douglas, Georgia. We are currently on a national tour. It's our Salute to Veterans tour to help honor our men and women who served our great country all throughout the years, and to help make sure that the history and the stories behind them don't ever fade. And so we are taking our aircraft around city by city, kind of barnstorming fashion, to be able to help bring that history to life and also share that history.
Okay, and I understand you've got a pilot here from World War II, no?
Yes, there is a P-38 pilot from World War II out here today, helping to share his stories and keep those memories alive.
How did you get involved with this, Sean? I mean, getting to be a part of this whole experiment.
Certainly, I've been an aviation buff for several years, and a number of years ago I started in volunteering with different museums and organizations, and one thing led to another, and eventually led my way to the Liberty Foundation about 11 years ago. Great organization, and they got a great mission, and I was truly thankful to be invited to be a part of the organization, and one thing led to another, and I'm out here doing what I can to help with this tour and help keep this history alive with the B17 and the P51 Mustang.
The old flying fortress. I was told by a gentleman one day you had the B-24 and the B-17. Now, if you wanted to fly fast and drop a lot of bombs, you took the B-24. But if you wanted to come back, you went on the flying fortress. They had a way of coming back. Not all in one piece, but they came back. But, excuse me, the ground tours are free, right?
Yes, that's correct. There is no charge for our ground tours. We do gladly accept donations, and those donations help offset the high cost of operating these aircraft, because just for an example, the fuel cost alone is an average of $1,200 an hour to fly this aircraft. And then you add on top of that the annual maintenance costs, the insurance, and things like that. And it's expensive extremely fast, so those donations certainly help.
Okay, we're starting to get drowned out by a helicopter over there, Sean. My name is Bob Peters.
Jack Hallett.
Nice to meet you, Jack. I do Central Florida Salute, but you are a pilot.
Yeah.
What years?
I enlisted the day after Pearl Harbor, and I got my wings on January 14th, 1943. I was fortunate enough, one of the few people that flew the P-40 as a cadet, and then my orders were to be an instructor. Mm-hmm. And I cried like a baby. I said, no, I'm a fighter pilot, but that didn't do much good. They made me an instructor. And I finally got out, went to the West Coast, and got P-39 training and then P-38, and then went over on the Queen Elizabeth and was assigned to the 9th Air Force, which was the Tactical Air Force. So most of my work was armed reconnaissance and close ground support. And I flew 104 missions, only got in one dogfight, and got one 109. They switched us over to P-47s, and they brought in 3 P-47s for the whole group to check out in. We lost one the first day. The pilot bailed out, so we didn't lose him. Left 2 airplanes for the whole group to check out in. So if a guy had an hour and a half, he was a high time man. I went to combat with 55 minutes in the P-47. So the first thing I did was go through 3 trees, and they had to put new wings on my airplane, new engine in it. And my crew chief said, what do you want your guns set at? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, what converged at what airspeed? I said, how the hell do I know? I said, leave them where they are. So it took a while to get used to the convergence, because in the P-38 you had 450s and a 20 millimeter cannon that shot straight out, and in the P-47 you had 850s that converged. So it took a while to get used to that. But the P-47 was probably better for the work we were doing, which was close ground support. So I ended up in that thing, which was good.
Did you learn on the Stearman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I soloed in that in July of '42, and then went from there to the BT-13s, and then in T-6s at Craig Field in Selma, Alabama.
Well, I'm not a pilot, sir, but I had the honor of flying in a Stearman, a B-29, and I've already flown in one of these, and I'm looking forward to going again, though. So,
The Stearman is wonderful, isn't it fun?
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you get to see everything.
The Ageless Aviation Dreams Foundation does that. They come around and they take people up. I think, Al, you went in one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Al did one.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Right, yeah.
They're beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for your service, sir. I don't want to hold
Thank
you
you.
up here,
Yeah.
but it was a pleasure meeting you, an honor meeting you,
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to let everybody else ask you questions.
Jack, flying a P-38 and you had to engage ME-109s.
Yeah.
How did they maneuver? Were they as maneuverable, or were they mismatched, or
Well,
how would you rate them?
we were escorting Lancasters, and the British flew different from the Americans. The British was like heating a herd of sheep. You weren't sure who was leading, and I was flying tail end Charlie on the upper box, and I saw the MEs come across up front, so I was anxious to get in a fight, and the first thing I know, I saw tracers coming over the top behind me, and I looked in we had a big convex mirror, and saw two MEs on my tail. So I figured this is no time to look at somebody else, so I evaded them. And when I came out of it, I looked and everybody was gone, and we had an undercast. So I saw four MEs down below me, and I figured, well, I'll go shoot all of them down. Dick Bong does it, so I'll knock them out of the air. And they disappeared into the clouds. I'd like to think I chased them, but I don't think they saw me. So I saw one, and I went after him, and we went into a Luftberry. And I finally got him, knocked him out of the sky, and then found my outfit and came home. And I was all full of...
Well, stand up to the message.
Well, yeah. Both of us went round and round. I finally got him, but because it had the combat flap, which was nowadays it had a speed brake, which is on all jets. It also had aileron boost, which were on all jets. Now, so it did have that, which is a big help. But I wanted to get more fights. That's where the glory was being an ace. And I'm far from it. I only needed 4 more.
Well, you must have done enough, because I see the distinguished flying cross.
So, Wally, did you want to walk out and take a look at it? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead. We'll actually do an immediate interview.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do.
So this airplane was actually built in '44, and it went to Wright-Patterson. It was a test bed for a new technology where they used a radar instead of they fitted the airplane with a radar where the ball turret was, so that they could use radar to map the ground. Instead of having to see the target with the Norden bomb sight, they could paint the area and know where they were through that, and be hidden by the cloud layer. So it was a safer technology that was coming forward. So this airplane went to Wright-Patterson for many years. Then later on it was a cargo airplane, and then an ant sprayer in Dothan, Alabama for a while. You know, all the fire ant problems we have in southern Alabama and Georgia and all the way out to Texas and all. So this airplane, it survived due to that. Otherwise, like many of the old warbirds, they got scrapped. They got melted down so you could have your pots and pans again. All the things that people were doing without for the war effort, they were able to. They turned most of these airplanes into scrap metal, because the value just wasn't. There were so few uses for a B17 after the war that very few of them survived. So we're proud to have one of the few flying ones here. You might have heard of an airplane called Chucky. The Doc Hospers had Chucky for many years, and that was this airplane. Then it's changed hands a couple of times. It's now with the Erickson collection. and we're representing the book A Higher Call with this paint scheme. If anybody's familiar with the story of A Higher Call, where the German pilot escorted the B17 that was so badly shot up across the coastline there to keep them from getting shot with flak. We're volunteers for the Liberty Foundation, and we want to come honor our veterans here. That's our main goal, and to help you guys tell your story, because just listening to what we've heard just now, every one of you guys has some fantastic stories to share, and there's nothing like hearing it from the person who did it. I mean, all the great books that have been written and all the stories of World War II, there's nothing like hearing it from somebody. Unfortunately, my kids tell me that World War II is only about 6 pages in a history book. And that's sad, because we know what it means to the history of the world to have the successes that the U.S. did. And if it wasn't for the U.S. being involved in B-17s, we probably wouldn't have won World War II, and the world would be totally different. But of course, Boeing built these things so that they could handle losing major control surfaces. They built them to take the battle damage, and I think a lot of veterans said, if I'm going to fly a bomber, I want to be in a B-17. That's the airplane that was, seemed to fly the best up at altitude, seemed to be able to take the most damage and make it home. So we're proud to represent this one. There's only a few of them flying left, and what we do, we offer passenger flights. It costs $475. That's like just a small drop in the bucket of what it costs to maintain them and fly them. But that's what keeps this airplane flying, and getting to the next cities to help meet more veterans and tell these stories and show them what it is, because otherwise they'll all end up in a museum, and a lot fewer people get to see them that way. And you sure don't get to experience the excitement and the sights and sounds and smells of a real airplane, a real B-17 flight. So we'll offer the public these 30-minute flights, and at $475 a flight. Also Mustang flights, $1195 for a Mustang flight if anybody's interested. Then once we're done with our rides, we will open the airplanes up for ground tours. At least the B-17 will be opened up for ground tours. We're the only operator out there that offers ground tours for free. We love donations. We really could use the donations, but we don't charge anything. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see in this B-17 and go and see what our veterans were using back then. So they'll get a little tour of it. And as you go through the airplane, what they'll be seeing and what you'll see, of course, most of the veterans I know what it is, but your waist gunners, the guys that had 50 caliber guns there, huge, guns, and I can imagine 12 or 13 of these things going off at an airplane like this. That had to be deafening. I don't know how you guys have any hearing. The coldness is what brings a lot to me. You guys are talking about minus 30, 40, or minus 50 degrees up at altitude. I mean, we complain about being a little cold in these airplanes, but it's nothing compared to what they'd be up at the higher altitudes. Your oxygen requirements, I mean, if you lost your oxygen supply, you could be dead in no time up there. So there's a lot of challenges besides the fact that the fighters are after you, the flak's after you. I mean, you're such a low, a low probability of making your missions. So, I mean, I know it's just fantastic group of guys that did this to help win World War II. So as you walk your way forward, you'll step over that ball turret, and if you can imagine being cooped up in that for 6 or 8 hours, we hear stories of guys having to be slung out of there because you're so cramped up. So being in the ball for many hours, and of course, if the ball got disabled and the gear got disabled, there was no way out. So a lot of danger in that. You couldn't carry a parachute in there, so very risky place to be. Up in the radio room, I love seeing the old radios and things like that, but some B-17s actually had a 13th gun up there. A 30 or 50 caliber gun could be in that top hatch. Speaking of that is one of the most awesome views. We want all of y'all to be able to rotate through the airplane after we're airborne and see that hatch and stick your head out a little bit, but just be aware there's about 18 inches of dead airspace there, but above that it's 150 mile-an-hour air, and it will take your hat, your glasses, your camera, or anything you put up that high. It snatches it pretty quickly. So be careful if you put anything out of that above that slipstream boundary there. But it's one of the neatest views you can have, looking back at the tail of the airplane in the countryside. As you go forward from there, you'll step through the bomb bay. This bomb bay, we've got 4 replica 500-pound bombs in there. The typical load could be up to 12 of those 500-pound bombs. Although what we understand is that they had to look at your fuel load first. Depending on how far you were going into Germany or France, you'd put your fuel load first, and then you could see how many bombs you could carry based on your range. Once they figured how many bombs they could carry with the fuel on board, then they would figure out how many B-17s or B-24s they needed to go to the target to accomplish the mission. So, of course, they'd send many of them out, and a lot of them didn't return, and that's what we want to be mindful of. Is a lot of guys didn't make it back, and there's a lot of training accidents. I mean, it was a dangerous job. These airplanes now are extremely safe. They're maintained all throughout the week, and of course it's 4-engine, dual control, everything. But we have to remind you, it's a limited category airplane. It's built for the military, so there's a lot of padding. There's not the same creature comforts that you'd have in an airliner, but it's one of the safest things you can be on. I mean, it can take any kind of damage and still return home. It can, losing one engine is no big deal. If we did lose an engine, which is extremely rare, we would just tell everybody to take our seats. We come back in here, and you wouldn't hardly even know it if we didn't tell you. But so as you were going through the bomb bay, go through the cockpit, say hi to us, and see what was going on there. Of course, there was an engineer with a top turret, would be the top turret gunner. There's not much to see there now. We had to remove a lot of that because it was so cramped in there. When you have the turret, the oxygen bottles, the ammo cans, and all the things that would be up there, you couldn't even move up there. So a lot of that's missing, so you can go up in the cockpit and see what we're doing. Then the main thing we want everybody to do, and we'll make the ride long enough to make this happen, but we want everybody to go up and see the nose of the airplane where you have the Norden bomb sight and the navigator station. So you have to, in order to do that, you'll sit down on the floorboard and bend your head forward, duck down and crawl up to the nose and get the chance to see that. That's the top secret Norden bomb sight was up there, and that was one of the neat things about the Allies, is that we wanted to bomb the specific thing. We just didn't want to bomb cities and kill people. We wanted to get the ball bearing plant or the refinery or something that was important to winning the war, but not just kill casualties or have people unnecessarily killed. So the bomb sight helped do that. You could be up at 30,000 feet and have a very accurate solution for your bomb. That's right. They would, so you'll see all the knobs and dials that are on that the bombardier would have to know how to set it up so that it would be an accurate bomb drop. So when everybody gets to go through, when everybody gets to go through the airplane as far as you want to go see, we'll give you guys about a 3-minute warning of being seated, or if you need longer, we'll give you longer, but we have to have everybody seated for takeoff and landing. And when you sit down for landing, it doesn't need to be the seat that you were in before. Just any seat will do. It's musical chairs. Whatever's the closest one to you, grab a seat. We'll make sure everybody's seated for a landing. Now, Sean will brief you on the exits and all that. First, this is the main exit right here where we'll come in and out, but also that hop hatch is also could be an exit, or the forward hatch that you see the crews sometimes pulling themselves up through there. We keep a bar on that, so as you go to the nose, you'll see the bars across that, and that keeps you from accidentally opening that door. Please don't put any weight on that door. If there's a nice floorboard beside it, so but it's locked shut. If you did need to use it, there's a pin to pull and raise the bar, and you could open that door. But you wouldn't want to open that door with the propellers running because it's right beside number 2 engine.
About just after takeoff, you'll see me. I'll be up in the front, but I'll give you a thumbs up. That means if you want to unseat belt and stand up, you can. Okay. Like you said, we do let people walk up and back. If you drop something going across the catwalk after the radio room, like you said, do not try to retrieve it. We'll get it afterwards. And once again, the hatch is open here so you can look out, but please be careful. It's 150 mile an hour wind out there. So you have about 10 inches of dead air. Beautiful view. But after that, kind of tuck it back down.
I think it'd be really exciting if you parachuted out.
I didn't ask where my parachute was.
Well, if you don't have one, you don't have one, but it'd be exciting.
Over water would be all right.
Yeah, we'll go over water.
Bob, I don't know, and friends like you.
You know what? The gentleman talked about the cables.
Yes.
They did that on purpose. That they're out like that because when they got shot, the enemy shot them, and they hit the cable. They could splice it real quick. I can tell you a few things about because I've been on one of these before.
You've been on one of these?
Oh yeah, I've been on these before.
You did a segment live on TV for that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And now you're doing it where?
I'm doing it Central Florida Salute.
Is he supposed to be smoking like that?
Yeah.
I asked him a while ago if that tire being half flat was on purpose. I said, I'm asking for a friend.
Right, yeah.
I want to hear what you guys thought of the flight. You know, a couple of Navy guys.
I think it was wonderful. Those old engines were purring away like they just come off the assembly line. It was a beautiful day, and from the bombardier's position up in the bubble, a great view of Lake County. And I can see now why they call it Lake County. Every place you look, there is water.
Yeah, yeah.
So very nice. I appreciate the flight.
It was a very
any
good.
memories?
Well, I was a Higgins boat driver, so they were 36 foot long, and we hit the beach and took the troops in.
Yeah, it was a landing craft during
landing craft. Well, they call
World War
it
II.
the amphibious navy. Also, the Gator Navy. Alligators, you go up on the beach.
We built airstrips for these planes, and the big brings back memories.
I saw James. You went all the way down the bottom, didn't you? Where the bomb site is?
No, sir, I did not go to the bottom. I was busy checking out the view from out all the windows. But what a beautiful county we live in. Lake County. I forget how many lakes there are. What an amazing thing. The elders are supposed to teach the younger. Go ahead and jump, Bob, and let me know how it works.
I'd give you the push if you got by the door.
Oh, what a flight, huh?
It is something, isn't it? Imagine doing 12 hours or so. Like I was talking to some of these people, and when you look inside where the 50 caliber weapon is,
Yes.
that's a wooden box because metal was so precious back then. So they built those boxes out of wood.
Pardon?
Who are you with?
I was flying with John up front, and so I was a co-pilot today. So John, you got to have two pilots in this airplane to fly legally. So John was a pilot, and I was a co-pilot today. So, and his
Did you fly these?
no. Well, did I fly him or do I fly him? Yes, I did fly him as a volunteer. John and I both fly him. In the Navy, I flew F-18s, and then I also fly in the Commemorative Air Force. I fly the Hellcat, Bearcat, and a Corsair.